In the heat of the summer, deep, clear water can be quite challenging, so let's go ahead and break it down. Some viewers here on the channel in recent weeks have asked me to kind of go into some more detail about approaching deep, clear water in this mid to late summer period, and I can totally agree that it's kind of disheartening when you get to the lake and you put on those polarized sunglasses and look down into the water column and it appears to be completely void of life. So today we're going to go over a few things that you can keep in mind the next time you're faced with these conditions. While we just said that it seems like most of the water can be completely void of life, well, guess what? It is. This is the time of year when fish of multiple species get in big groups. Bass especially are going to be in groups, whether that group is 5 or 6 fish, or maybe the school is 50 or 60 fish. As a matter of fact, on a recent video that we did where we're filming a ledge underwater, we had to cover over 500 yards of a ledge to find a small group of small bass. So that kind of tells you just that 99% of the water can be completely empty. So that's the first thing we have to do, is really approach the day with that type of mindset, and it will steer us the right direction of the things we're looking for and how we're going to find them. The first thing we have to keep in mind is stratification, or the thermocline. If you believe that your lake or your good-sized pond or reservoir stratifies in a thermocline forms, we need to locate it. With today's electronics, it's very easy. Go ahead and set that sensitivity up just a touch, and it's going to show up on your screen somewhere. The thermocline is denser. The water there is denser than it is in the top part of the water column, and it'll show up, like I said, as kind of a fuzzy band right across the center. I will mention a video about the thermocline at the end of this one, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. Once you have located the thermocline, we don't want to fish below it. It's so easy this time of year to put our lures in the dead zone, and we're fishing in a place where the oxygen levels are so low, the bass are not going to be there. So once you've located that thermocline, if your lake has one, make sure that you stay above it and don't go below it. So that's the very first key to unlocking deep, clear water in the heat of the summer. The next thing that we want to do is find some sort of life. I repeat this through our videos all the time because it's such a critical factor in being successful. Now, there's 3 ways that you can break down or look for signs of life. One, you can use your electronics. Look for those big schools of bait fish, those big schools of sunfish. Where you find the food, you're going to find the bass, so you can use your electronics. The second way, and this is really one of my favorite ways, is put that trolling motor down, crank it up on high, and just go to town down the shoreline. This is especially effective if the water that you're fishing has a little bit of color to it, or even if it's dirty, because you know that the bass are going to be shallower. But we're talking about deep, clear reservoirs here, so stick those polarized sunglasses on, put that trolling motor on high, and really be observant to what's around you. Not only are we looking for fish in the water, but we're looking for turtles. We're going to be looking at the birds overhead. Are they circling in a specific area? If you can see life, you know that you are likely in a good spot. And the last way that you can look for life is to put on some type of a searching lure. Now, for most of us, this is going to be a horizontal bait, whether it's a topwater, crankbait, a swim jig, whatever it might be. But the whole key here is we don't have to catch one. We just want a fish to reveal themselves. So if I'm bringing a swim jig through the water column and I see a bass kind of come up and take a look at it but then nose away, that's all I was looking for. I was looking for that sign that there is a fish there, because like we mentioned earlier, there's probably going to be a group of them there. So between the electronics, visually scanning with our eyes looking, and then using search baits, we can find where life is pretty quickly on the body of water that we're fishing. Going back to the mental approach here, we talked about that most of the water is going to be devoid of life. It's not unusual to fish for maybe an hour or 2 hours without a single bite. But then what we're looking for is that moment where we catch one, we have it narrowed down, and maybe the next 15 to 30 minutes is going to be game on. We might catch bass on every cast, almost every cast. You know, if you got 2-3 people in the boat, all of you could hook up at the same time. So remember, mentally, that's the goal that we're looking for, is for that big group of fish, but it may take a couple of hours to get there. So if you don't get a bite for 60 minutes or for 90 minutes, don't be disheartened. You're just one more cast away from locating a good spot. Now this next one, especially in deep clear water, is even something that myself I struggle with, and that is change, mix it up, check all the different variables. That comes down to changing the colors, changing the weight that you're using. Have a slow rate of fall, then make it a quick rate of fall. Make sure that you're mixing up all the different parts of the water column. Check the weed beds, check the docks, check the ledges. We have to keep throwing all the possibilities out there until we can narrow it down. And it's so easy to, you know, put on a Texas rig soft plastic, you got a June bug worm on with a 1/4 ounce weight, and you fish that for 3 hours. I've done that so many times, but if you don't get a bite, if you're not getting any information to help narrow down your search, you want to keep mixing it up. That is one thing that pro anglers are so good at, is they will take the time to sit down, put on a weight that is a 1/4 ounce heavier, an 1/8 ounce lighter, change the color just a little bit. They're looking for the right information to unlock that bite. And on clear water especially, it's so critically important because the bass are really using their sight to key in on what's going. So make sure that you don't fall into the trap of using the same lure for 2 or 3 hours. Keep changing until you can narrow it down. And this last tip for fishing deep clear water is so critically important, and that is have confidence. Fishing is one of those deals that if you believe you're one cast closer, if you believe that you are on the right track, the odds of catching goes way up. If you feel unconfident in the lure that you're using, if you're not confident in the location that you're in, odds are you're not going to get a bite at all because you start to lose focus. So on these tough bodies of water, these deep clear lakes and these mid to late summer months, make sure that you have a confidence lure. For me, if things are really difficult, that means I'm probably going with a drop shot rig. I know that if I get that lure down there and I soak it long enough and I keep using it, I'm gonna get a bite. Maybe it's gonna be a bunch of little fish, but so what? On a tough summer day, I'm completely okay with that. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you do use a drop shot as your confidence rig or presentation on these deep clear lakes, is keep adjusting that leader length. On a bluebird day, those bass are going to be relating to the bottom. So that means you might need to shorten that leader up a little bit to keep that lure right down in their face. So just like we mentioned earlier, adjust the weight, adjust the lure, the color, all those types of things on your drop shot. And hey, make sure you let me know down below what your confidence bait is on these hot, difficult summer days. Now, if you want to watch a video that goes into great detail about the thermocline and how to avoid the dead zone, go ahead and check this video out right here. And hey, don't forget to go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.